Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We are very excited for our webinar series and so happy that you're all joining us. My name is Jenny Fay, and I'm with the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, or NFTE. And along with our coalition organizations, we're also excited to have you here today for this timely discussion. Before we get started, I just have a couple of housekeeping items. The first is we have a great lineup of panelists and speakers who will be joining us today, and we'll have time at the end for questions. But feel free to drop your questions into the chat as we go along, and we'll keep track and answer those questions when we have our Q&A session at the end. I want to thank all of our panelists and our leadership team members, as well as the staff who pulled this webinar together. We really appreciate everyone's hard work. We'll also share a recording out of today's session, along with our policy recommendations and some follow-up materials after the webinar ends. I'm going to turn it over to John Widlin, who's the President and CEO of Virtual Enterprises, to introduce today's webinar. Thank you all for being here.
So thank you, Denver. So good afternoon or good morning. I see we have someone from Phoenix, so depending where you are. Thanks for joining today. This is a really vital discussion on advancing opportunities in the age of AI. So I'm pleased to kick it off. As Jen said, I'm John Widlin, the President and CEO of Virtual Enterprises here in New York, although we're in 5 other regions as well. And we're proud members of the C2EO Coalition, Connecting Career and Entrepreneurship Opportunities Coalition. Love being a part of it. As you know, the coalition brings together leading organizations across the country, all dedicated to share this urgent cause, delivering high-quality entrepreneurship education and work-based learning programs to our youth. Core mission is simple: it's to drive the systems and policy changes necessary to ensure that every student is prepared to thrive in the modern workforce. As we all know, we're at a profound inflection point. AI isn't just a tech trend that's going anywhere. It's actively reshaping how we learn, how we work, how we hire, and how we build businesses across every single sector of the economy. Policymakers at both the federal and state levels are paying attention, moving swiftly from high-level principles to real-world practice. Earlier this year, we saw the release of a national framework and critical guidance on responsible AI, workforce preparedness, and economic innovation. At the same time, states are stepping forward, launching dedicated AI task forces, issuing concrete guidance for K through 12 education, as well as higher education, and exploring how to weave AI directly into regional economic development and workforce strategies. When it comes to translating these frameworks into daily classroom and workplace practice, we are still in the early innings. Big fundamental questions remain, such as, how do we prepare young people for a labor market that is shifting in real time? How do we equip students with the durable skills they will need to navigate this future? And what specific, tangible support do our schools need to meet this pivotal moment? That's exactly why conversations like the one we're having today are so critical. This isn't just a technical briefing, it's a cross-sector call to action. It's about education, workforce development, and the economy working hand in hand to move us forward. There is incredible bipartisan consensus across this country that we must get this moment right for our students and our future economic security. Today, our goal is to cut through the noise. We want to dive into both the massive excitement and the very real hurdles surrounding AI, and focus on the practical, actionable ideas we need to empower the next generation. With that, it's my absolute pleasure to turn it over to a fellow coalition member, Lisa Doogie, President and CEO of NAF, to introduce our panel and get the conversation started. Lisa, over to you.
Thank you, John. And just to reiterate some of the points that John just made, this is so timely because if you've heard me speak on this topic before, you've heard me say that technology has never moved as quickly as it is today, but it will likely never move this slowly again. So it is so important that we have these conversations, that we bring all the right people to the table, and we really talk a lot about, as John said, the very exciting things that AI brings to the table, and also the things that we need to make sure that we are constantly focused on to really harness the positivity and the potential that AI can bring out for students. It is one of the things that has the potential to be a great equalizer, expanding access to career readiness resources that for some students they never had access to. And the other piece of it is that we have seen research that says 70% of the most requested skills by employers are the durable skills, the human skills that technology and AI can't replace. So making sure that we continue to think about that balance and how we really bring all of this together is so important. So I'm very excited to moderate this panel and to introduce our panelists, because this should be a great conversation with very varied perspectives on this topic. And I think that making sure that we continuously keep students at the center of the conversation is critical, and that this isn't about how do we beat AI, but how do we build alongside it, and how do we strengthen the human skills that make innovation, leadership, and purpose possible. So I would love to bring the panelists on and allow Johnny, Vanessa, and Cody to each introduce themselves and share a little bit about what's exciting about AI for them right now, and how are they thinking about it in the work that they're doing. So why don't we start with Johnny?
Hey, thank you, Lisa. Thanks for having us here today. My name is Johnny Palumbo. I am alumni of Uncharted Learning. I took their incubator and their accelerator courses. Got a lot out of this. Today, I am proud to be a founder and operator of my own consulting firm. I've been building in the AI space for about the last 4 years, primarily focused on financial services. And then for the last 2 years, I've been lucky enough to get involved with Uncharted Learning as a mentor and have been able to help them out. So breaking into the education space as well. A lot of what I do is just helping founders integrate workflows and AI into their development and operational systems. So excited to be here, excited to share some opinions.
Vanessa?
Thank you, Lisa. And hi, everyone. I'm Vanessa Stratton, Senior Vice President of Instructional Development at Project Lead the Way. My focus is on scaling high-impact, career-connected curriculum and professional development for pre-K-12 educators and students nationwide. Thinking about what excites me about AI at this moment, I'm excited about AI's power to amplify and not replace human potential. So when we think about AI and think about it strategically, it can handle a lot of routine execution, which frees up our teachers, focus on deep mentorship, and importantly, frees up our students to lean into the durable skills already mentioned, like critical thinking, ethical decision-making, and entrepreneurial strategy. So I think it's an incredible tool for opening doors to career discovery that used to be out of reach for many students.
Excellent. And Cody?
Thanks, Lisa. Hi, everyone. My name is Cody Chang. Um, I'm a alumnus of both NFTE and the VEI program, and so I have the wonderful fortune of also working with both organizations now as president and CEO of my own AI tech consulting firm as well. We started in the ed tech space simply because one of my prior businesses was in the post-secondary education teaching tech. And so when AI came on to the you know came on into the landscape, we pivoted a lot to teaching tech to post-secondary education individuals that wanted to transition. But then we realized that a lot of the opportunity was in helping organizations, especially enterprise organizations, really master and hone AI, much like the digital transformation years ago. So now we're in a space where we're working with both NFTE and VEI and also other financial services companies, legal tech companies as well. And I would say what excites me the most about AI and entrepreneurship really is the equity. We've seen it happen in the classroom where students that traditionally did not have specialized access to knowledge now have it because of AI. And it really levels the playing field for a lot of the learning opportunities that they have. And for myself being uh, a student of EI and NFTE, I was a recipient of that, and I'm very, very fortunate and grateful to be able to pay that forward to the students now in the program.
That's fantastic and sets up my first question perfectly. Johnny and Cody, as alums of different organizations in this coalition, I'd love for you to talk about the durable skills that you gained from those experiences and how that really prepared you to start your two companies. Johnny, you can go first, since I see you first.
Yeah, so I went through the Uncharted Learning curriculum from 2018 to 2020. And like my initial thought with coming to this panel is, well, a lot's changed. AI wasn't a tool that we used in the classroom back then. And I still give credit to that class for giving me almost all the skills I have to this day. I went to University of Wisconsin, studied computer engineering, computer science, learned a lot there, but somehow in the AI space, I learned more in a high school entrepreneurship class. The durable skill I took from this class wasn't any set skill. If it was, I wouldn't be using it in this day and age. But it's the ability to pick up new skills. Being an entrepreneur is very, very similar to operating in the AI space where there's something new happening every week and you have to constantly be adapting. The circuitry that you develop over time has to be constantly changing. So going back to the classroom in this day and age, I'm jealous of the students. I think they can do a lot more than I was ever able to, but it's really cool to see just how the same skills that have been taught for the past decade at Uncharted Learning are still really relevant in this day and age.
I very much share in that jealousy, Johnny. I wish I also had AI when I was operating my businesses. Um, to add to that, I think the durable skill that Nifty and VEI taught me was really being accountable for the result. And I think that I've seen the initial discourse on AI, particularly from educators, go from uh, outright refutation of it to skepticism to adoption of it. But fundamentally, I feel like the durable skill that I learned was when you're starting a business, you have to be able to deal with rejection, right? AI is not going to teach you that. Um, in fact, your teachers might not even be able to teach you that, but programs like Nifty, like VEI, create the environment for students like me to be in a simulated environment, grow from a simulated environment to a semi-simulated environment, and then into the real world. You have to launch a business, and I think that's the most durable skill that I've found is being accountable for that result, being able to go in front of a lot of people that's going to tell me no, because AI is made to keep you happy. And so if you don't have that durable skill, you're not going to be accountable for it. And ultimately, I don't think that the knowledge gained from AI will be as useful. So I would say that and I can't see this skill going away. In fact, it's probably going to be even more important for students and educators and even legislators to double down on that.
That's so well said. And one of the things that is why we need to make sure we're building alongside AI and making sure that people are still very much a part of it and not just letting the technological pieces take over and have that be the only mechanism through which we're doing it. So I think that that point is so well made. And Johnny, this also goes to, you started to talk a little bit about as an Uncharted Learning alum that you've worked with them to establish an AI tool to help students develop their entrepreneurial ideas. Can you talk a little bit more about that and share how that's help Uncharted Learning continue to develop how they offer these opportunities?
Absolutely. So first off, I want to start off by saying like I always wanted to go do work with Uncharted Learning. Like whenever you get a lot personally out of a program, I always feel called to go back. So as soon as I had the opportunity to go mentor, I leapt at it. Having just started my own AI company, my former teacher was asking me all these ways, how can we integrate this? How can we use this? The students are using it anyway, but they're just putting something in, copying and pasting it. So the problem really came from how can we integrate AI into the classroom? Vanessa, you said what I have written down almost line for line, but how do we use AI to enhance creativity rather than replacing it? And in the ideation process of starting a business, a lot of these students haven't gone through this process before. They haven't thought for themselves. They've just been thinking what their teachers tell them to think. So coming in now, AI is almost it's the opposite of a tool. It'll hold you back from creative thinking. And we saw that year a lot of protein powders were made. A lot of non-reputable or like non-efficient business ideas were coming out of the classroom. So this tool that we created, it really gives the students AI as a tool rather than like something that they can get ahead with. It's something that everyone has now. So the other thing that this helps with is helping first year teachers who don't have the experience or maybe the business experience. Maybe they haven't started their own business or this is their first year teaching the class. They're not going to know how to push students in the right direction. And what AI has allowed us to do is we went and interviewed about 100 teachers at the Uncharted Learning National Summit, got their perspectives on how to teach students how to push them in the right directions, and then we trained an ideation bot, named her Ida, and used all that knowledge from the community to help new teachers and to help support students using this tool to help them get ahead and enhance their creativity.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned something that is so important to this conversation. When we know how important this is for students to be learning, we also need to make sure that educators are prepared to share this with students, to bring this into the classroom in a way that they're comfortable with. And we know, we've had people visit NAF academies where it's clear that the students are using AI, but it's clear that the teachers are not the ones actually bringing that into the classroom. It's that they're needing a little bit more support. So at NAF, we've been thinking about how do we continue to do that for educators and the different educator supports. But Vanessa, I would love for you to talk to us a little bit about Project Lead the Way's course, Demystifying AI, and about its development and how educators and districts are using it and how that's really helping to create this comfortability in the classroom when we know that students want to see this, and how do we help make sure educators are prepared for that?
Yes, absolutely. So 2 years ago, Project Lead the Way launched Demystifying AI in Education, really to pull back the curtain on the technology and shift our teachers and their students from passive users to informed, empowered drivers of the tool. We designed this PD program to encourage teachers to experiment with AI in a low stakes environment. We found a lot of teachers who were either anxious about it, felt like it was this great unknown, or were really way far ahead of where their districts were providing guidance and policy. And so it was this unknown, really uncomfortable space in how do I bring this in as an educator? How do I work with my students with this in an ethical manner, in an exciting, engaging manner, so that we're not just using AI to generate answers to conclusion questions at the end of an activity or something. So really in an effective, purposeful way. And it's been well received. I think when we first launched it 2 years ago, we are needing to keep up with the professional development of our educators as much as the technology is evolving. So not only how much more powerful it's becoming, but also how much more widespread and varied the use of AI is becoming in the classroom.
And have you seen any roadblocks with this, or are there any challenges with districts or how it's being rolled out? And how have you addressed any of those?
So what's interesting is initially, a couple of years ago, we saw districts who had locked everything down. So said no AI in our district for our teachers or for our students. And then we had other school districts who said, this is the future, our students need to be empowered, and they just unlocked everything. And so now, 2 years into it, we're seeing more balance. Although I was surprised to see a Gallup poll released just last week. Let me check my notes so I get this right. But only 18% of educators report receiving formal guidance on using AI, which I thought was still lower than I would have guessed at this time. So we have a ways to go. I think the ambiguity creates a barrier for our educators, and it's a place where policy can provide guidance and support.
That number is shocking, especially when I'm sure that any of us who go to a lot of conferences, AI is the topic of every single conference. So the fact that it isn't translating to the classroom as much as I think we would all expect is a really important thing for us all to be focused on and thinking about from all of our different programs, and also the policies that can be made around this and how we can help to encourage how we bring this to not only classrooms, but how we really make sure that there's that comfort with it and that professional development, and that it's moving alongside. As we said, the pace of technology and change is so rapid that it needs to be continuous, and it's not something you drop off and expect to just stay the way it is forever. So it's such an important piece of this. Cody, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about, you're a NFTE alum and you work closely with their teachers also. And how are you seeing the mindset towards AI changing, and what's shifted in the last few years? And what are some of the things that you think are exciting and that we need to make sure we're continuing to focus on for teachers?
Yeah, initially, we found that a lot of teachers were very anxious, much like Vanessa had said. And we felt that anxiousness, and a lot of the initial interactions with them was trying to manage those expectations of anxiety. And to their credit, at that time, AI was still, compared to now, obviously immature. And so we didn't know where AI would go. The students didn't know where it would go, and certainly not the teachers. On our second touch point with them, we observed a skeptical but gradual acceptance of it because uh, they saw that their students were using it, and as much as their districts were trying to shut it down, students students will find a way. They will find a way, and teachers' skepticism turned from, well, if we don't try and get ahead of this, we will be behind. So now the conversation has shifted to not only acceptance, but enthusiasm to integrate AI into their curriculum and adopt best practices. But much like Vanessa had said, it really varies based off of the attitude that the school districts have, that the schools have, and the policies that they're beholden to. A lot of the challenges that we have seen is simply training for the teachers, because the teachers are usually teaching multiple subjects in addition to entrepreneurship. And now we're saying, hey, please spend some time, additional time outside of your regular hours to learn about AI and incorporate. It's a lot to ask. And so I think that's probably the biggest roadblock, the lack of a dedicated, paid professional development time for them to learn this. And I think the laws and the policies, while they are very well intended, need to be a little bit more flexible in terms of how they are changing the content towards the individual teachers. And so we've seen that specifically where tier one, we started in the classroom with the individual students, building tools for them. We moved up to build tools for the teachers, but now we realize that where the opportunity is to first build tools for the organizations. So now organizations like NFTE and VEI, we're able to implement AI and help them help their teachers identify specific areas where, hey, looking at 1,000 business plans, it looks like this group of teachers could use a little bit more help teaching math, right? Let's focus on that specifically instead of saying, world's your oyster, just log in and create whatever you want. And I think we're seeing a lot more success there. But again, it needs to work hand in hand with professional development that's flexible.
Is such an important point. And, I think that all of the organizations that you can see on all of our backgrounds that are part of this coalition really are very focused on that. And another thing that is a thread through all of our organizations is this idea of entrepreneurial thinking. And so this is an open question for all of the panelists. Well, we teach a lot of different things around career connected learning and entrepreneurship. Those are really the core parts of a lot of our programming. So I'd love for all of you to share, what are the things that you think that schools can do to integrate AI to empower the entrepreneurial side of job creation, and how, not just thinking about going to get a job that exists, but as AI continues to bring out, there are going to be a lot of jobs that we don't know what they are, and how can students be a part of thinking about what are the jobs of the future and how are they equipped to go out and not just get them, but create them? Johnny, I can start with you.
I actually have a good way to build off Cody's last answer there. So I think, just like very simply put, to help turn students into entrepreneurs, we need to give them the tools that entrepreneurs use. As an entrepreneur, I can tell you that I would not be an entrepreneur at my age without AI. There's too many parts of running a business. There's too much that goes into it, and I think like a good stat that I have to share is that the Illinois Secretary of State is processing 3 times as many LLC applications as they were 10 years ago. So a lot more people getting into business, and we need to give these students the tools that they're going to be using in business, right? Wrapping up my answer, I think the key um, shift to change students from job seekers to job creators is changing them from seekers into creators. So like instead of, I think what AI has allowed us to do is allow us to stop making students seek out answers and start allowing them to ask questions. Like you go out into the real world and like you have AI at your hands, you can get the answer to anything you possibly can think of. You just have to think of the question. So uh, creating students into creators means just helping them ask questions and giving them the tools to do so.
Fantastic. Vanessa, how about you?
Well, really building on what Johnny had said, putting students in that creator mindset and position, if we can provide AI tools to students so they're solving real world problems, they're actually building prototypes, they're simulating business operations, that allows them to get their hands in there and get that experience so that as they go out into the world, they're not looking for jobs, they're looking to create solutions to problems, either locally, globally, wherever they find that their particular set of skills and passion drives them. So again, think about when you have AI, when they can have AI tools that are handling this routine execution, our students are freed up to focus on high level strategy, scaling innovation, and taking that from the classroom out into their lives will be such a benefit to all of us.
Cody, how about you?
Yeah, building on what both Johnny and Vanessa said, I agree that AI now it lowers the cost of starting something, right? To prototype, landing page, financial modeling, even customer outreach. You could all do that in a couple of days now. Um, and so AI is really good at execution. I think AI is useless at knowing what's worth executing. I have not seen that judgment that AI is able to supplement. It'll give you all the knowledge, the base knowledge of research, but the entrepreneur that exercises the judgment is still very much needed, and I don't think it's going to be going away anytime soon. So as much as the skills are there, definitely learn how to use AI to supercharge your business. I think what's not going away is that judgment, and I think that's what a lot of the organizations on this coalition are doing very well, is teaching that judgment that's necessary for um, entrepreneurship and also intrapreneurship. There are a lot of individuals that, my peers in this program that took the entrepreneurship program, and they're doing wonderfully working for other people, and that's fine too. But they're exercising that judgment in a way that I don't think would have been possible without these programs. And certainly they're doing it a lot more effectively because they're able to use AI to really do the grunt work now. So, yeah.
I think that's such a good point. And it also, when we think about what AI is really doing, in a lot of cases, it's automation. And you can't automate what you just said. That judgment piece, that conceptual part, that critical thinking, that can't be automated because it does need to be very specific. And so I think that that's such an important point. And building off of that, I'd love for all of the panelists to build on thinking about what are the things that AI is not replacing? What are the things that it is really important that it's for students in classrooms today, making sure that the transferable skills that they have that will enhance their ability to use a lot of these tools, but that are absolutely necessary that they remain a part of classroom learning and project-based learning and work-based learning so that they really are set up for, again, what we don't even know will look like in the future.
I'll just keep the rotation going. I think Cody hit the nail on the head there. I'll add to it just a little bit by broadening it to leadership. Like as so much of entrepreneurship education is teaching kids how to be leaders, how to work for themselves, how to put themselves first, and just on top of decision making, just creating a culture. That's the interpersonal skills. I've seen a lot of people want to automate sales in the last few years, and then recently it's been a lot of, ooh, let's stop automating sales. So a lot of that human-to-human interaction isn't going to go away. In fact, it's going to become doubly important because hard skills are going to become less of an advantage in this day and age, and those soft skills are going to be pretty irreplaceable.
And continuing with that, at Project Lead the Way, we talk a lot about transferable skills or durable skills in the areas of critical thinking, communication, collaboration, complex problem solving, and ethical decision making, all things which will be crucial as AI becomes more and more part of our lives, our work lives. And as we've discussed already, AI is a powerful accelerator, but it requires human direction. It requires human decision making and ethical reasoning. So, more than ever, our students will need to have experience with acquiring those skills, applying those skills, and really having that part of their everyday approach to problem solving. I think as we continue with it, we'll think about how do you connect these durable skills to careers, as we don't know what careers will look like in the future. So prioritizing standards around how do we assess how our students strategically navigate, validate, ethically apply AI will become more and more important as technology evolves, as careers change, as we move forward.
Doubling down on that, AI very much is that force multiplier, but a multiplier on zero is still zero. And so it's very important that students learn how to direct the AI, right? We generally don't know, no one knows where and what the careers will be in 5 to 10 years. But what we do know is AI is going to be a part of it. So how do we think about the skills and train those skills when we don't even know what the future would look like? And I think that skills that AI won't be able to replace, like Johnny said, leadership, like Vanessa said, critical thinking. Um, for me, it's accountability, right? I liken AI, and now we're in the what we call the AI agentic era. You can create AI agent employees. When you have human employees, you still have to review their work as an entrepreneur, as that work doesn't go away. Um, and I think that as AI becomes more accurate and more prevalent, we may have a tendency to surrender that accountability. Um, and that is not a future that I think we want to get to. But AI at any level will not be able to replace that. And so for the educators, for the legislators on this call, and even the students, think about how you can take ownership of the knowledge that AI is giving you, right? Because that's what's going to put you ahead of whatever AI will or will not be in 5 to 10 years.
So important. And we're getting close to time on the panel portion of this. This has been such a great conversation, but I would love for each of you to share if you had a magic wand and could change one thing or address one hurdle when it comes to how schools are using AI, what would be at the top of your list? We can keep the same rotation. So Johnny, if you want to go.
All right. If I had a magic wand, let's see. I think I can echo what Cody said. Like I've been around the classroom for the last few years, and I've seen a lot of fear. So if I could magic wand, just embrace the change, lean into that fear, because it's that fear and that discomfort, like facing that makes us entrepreneurs. And that ability to go embrace change is such an important part to being an entrepreneur. So just to create that equal access, I think we need to embrace the change and use AI as much as the students can.
Vanessa.
My magic wand, I will bring it back to our teachers. We know AI will be part of their lives, their students' lives. So moving beyond just funding professional development to fund the operational capacity to implement it. So ensuring that we have teacher support for time and space for that learning to happen. So my magic wand wouldn't just buy AI software and have it available for students and teachers, but provide flexibility that allows time and space, substitute teachers, closing up the digital divide, building wide, district-wide strategies so that we're setting up our educators, our students for success as they get into this area.
I would thumbs up plus a million to what Vanessa just said, because without professional development, paid, dedicated professional development, it's going to be very difficult to create a future workforce that is ready for AI. And in addition to add to that, I would say it's a permanent and dedicated professional development because of how quickly AI is changing and how deliberate the pace of policy moves. AI will vastly exceed that pace. And so having a dedicated professional development will allow, hopefully, educators to be up to date with AI and how it's changing so that they can also adapt their classroom experiences accordingly.
I think that really pulls all this together so well. I think that how we are really making sure that classrooms are equipped for this. I think, Vanessa, the statistic you said that 18% of teachers are getting formal guidance, yet we are expecting different outcomes for students and that they are prepared differently. We really need to make sure, and you also brought up assessments, that we're actually inspecting what we expect and that there's incentivization for these different things, that we're thinking about the right policies, that we're making sure that the right things are changing, because it's critical that's as important as literacy and financial literacy are for students, so is AI literacy. So how are we making sure that, beyond our individual programs, but that generally this is happening in classrooms across the country? And I think what I loved about all of your comments that really was the through line is that AI is going to change what we do, but our humanity will always define how we do it. And the future will really belong to those who can connect the two. And I think that that's something this coalition is really helping to do through our programs and through our collaboration also in making sure that we are working together to ensure that more students get access to the opportunities they need to be successful in their futures. So huge thank you, Johnny, Vanessa, and Cody, for all that you are doing, for your participation in this panel, but also for everything that you do for students every day. And I'm thrilled to now turn it over to JD LaRock, CEO of NFTE.
Thank you so much, Lisa, and thank you so much to all of our colleagues and to everyone who's joined the webinar today. I'm JD LaRock, the President and CEO of the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, and I'd like to try to pull the discussion together by talking a little bit about some concrete policy implications beyond what's already been said. Let me start by just sharing more observations from what I personally have been seeing our students and educators do as we've gone around the country and the world, seeing students in pitch competitions utilizing AI thoroughly, as my colleagues have said, and sharing some of my own reflections on the implications. As everyone's noted many times, we are now in a mode where across all of our organizations, students are coming to entrepreneurship showcases and competitions and demonstrations of learning, clearly having used AI to shape pitch decks, to shape language and words, to shape explanations, to shape mathematics, their financial plans, really every aspect of the business plan. In practice, what this has meant is that the very human-centered pieces of a pitch competition have become even more important in evaluating true learning. Let me explain what I mean by that. In the Q&A sessions, where judges ask students to expound on some element of their business or to explain the concept in their own words, the student's own use of AI creates a situation where it becomes very clear if the students can defend their learning and articulate their learning independently. I watched a student in Los Angeles over the weekend do a really good job walking the judges through her reasoning of why she was going to make certain choices in how she was going to allocate marketing dollars for her business. That is not something that she could have, well, she could have let AI make that same explanation, but the fact that she was able to do it was the key piece. And what is also clear is that when students use AI, but then don't engage in that own cognitive processing, that's a differentiator that shows where learning has taken place and where it hasn't. The upshot of that revelation is this: educators, more than ever, remain the guardians of understanding where skill development has taken place. Therefore, from a policy perspective, just as all of our colleagues have been saying, it becomes all the more important to invest in strategies and policies that amplify those types of activities, the human-centered activities between students and teachers and others. There are so many programs that already exist in federal and state and school district policies that support this. For example, on the federal level, this whole conversation, I believe, opens up a very needed branch of conversation on how WIOA youth accounts can be refashioned to meet these needs. WIOA already supports youth workforce readiness development. It's time to bring these concepts and these changes that are happening within education, with students, and in our broader landscape into that thinking. The same is true at the federal level for Perkins, career and technical education. This law, I think, probably already does the best job currently in addressing some of these topics. But as we look ahead to potential future reauthorizations of Perkins, we can bring this conversation in there in a more powerful way. State laws that are pursuing new steps with respect to financial literacy requirements are an excellent policy lever to take on board lessons relevant to this moment. Why? Because entrepreneurship, which is the common thread among all of our organizations, involves, by definition, a financial literacy component. And again, going about it in a way that enables students to productively utilize AI, but also defines the proof of learning in a way that can't use AI becomes more of a priority. So there are innumerable policy levers that already exist in law, where now it becomes our opportunity, and I think our responsibility as educators and educational leaders, to take these insights into policy conversations. Public education systems exist for many reasons. Of course, they exist to help educate students to become productive citizens and economically productive members of society. Education systems have been grappling with this problem since their establishment, and this is just, in a sense, the latest iteration of that. But we have on board now, through the work of our organizations, real insights into a couple key things. Number one, and this is different from what we're seeing in the backlash that you see in the public discourse. I think our belief as a coalition of organizations is that ultimately it would be wrong to ignore the significance of AI coming into society. Therefore, let's not just stop at policies to ban or limit AI. Let's actually engage with the implications. Number two, there are a whole set of existing policy levers that we can look at and apply to this moment. We just have to make those connections. And then number three, this ultimately needs to lead to an updated version of our ongoing conversation as educators, which is how do we ensure that students develop knowledge and agency and initiative and confidence in the face of a technology that, unlike other forms of technology, doesn't just substitute for human muscle and doesn't just substitute for human computation like a computer or a calculator does, but now substitutes for human intelligence. I think the bottom line of our conversation today is that we collectively feel very confident that human centrality and human agency can be sustained by educators at this moment. And we're all here to help the field get to that point. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, JD. Hi, folks. I'm Meg Reardon. I'm the Chief Learning Officer at the Possible Zone, and we're an organization that supports career-connected learning to build durable skill sets and expand students' network so that they have opportunities for economic mobility. And I'd like to just pull a thread that I think came up from the panelists. So in a second, panelists, I'll have ask you to turn on your videos again. But I think one area that was interesting is that Lisa touched on bringing, the need that employers have to lift up durable skill sets, and that they are seeking young people who are skill ready to enter into the workforce and are continuous learners and have adaptability and critical thinking and problem solving and some of those real rich, durable skills that we've identified. So I'm curious from the panel, what role do you think employers should play in shaping curricula and credentialing systems to ensure that our young people are prepared for that AI augmented workforce, where we're bridging both the human-centered skills that employers are seeking, as well as the kind of emerging technological skills that we want to position young people with? So I'll ask folks to pop on your cameras, and curious to hear, what's the role that you think our employers should be playing? Vanessa, you came on first, so looks like, do you want to dive in?
I'm happy to, Meg. Yes. So Project Lead the Way and I myself believe employers should be active partners, not just end users, as we think about curriculum and credentialing systems. Employers can help define skill standards, they can validate credentials, provide internships and apprenticeships, really providing students real workplace problems for them to solve, so that as curriculum providers, we can keep our curricula aligned with changing industry needs so that we have that two-way conversation, setting our students up for success. Active partners is really the right role, I think, for our employers.
Thanks so much, Vanessa. And Cody, you came on, so let me pop that over to you. Anything that you would expand or bridge from, or have a different opinion from what Vanessa has shared?
I would certainly agree. As much real world exposure that students have in terms of internships, apprenticeships, and sharing what curriculum should ultimately achieve in the workforce. 100% agree. I would also add that specifically in terms of credentialing, I think that employers have a duty to help bridge the gap in equity for access to learning, because AI has lowered the barrier to access for a lot of learning. I think employers now have a far greater pool of workforce that they can leverage, but it's on them to ensure that that pool is well sustained, and that starts with increasing the equity towards groups of all sorts of backgrounds, income levels, so that those folks get the access that they need, but also they're contributing to a future workforce where these employers may not exist, in a couple of years. Who are they training to help succeed them and replace them?
Thank you. Thanks so much, Cody. Yeah, it's really interesting to hear you point out, I think, sort of the bridge between connecting K-12, also higher education, frankly, and workforce in service of helping students to have stackable credentials that really position them for those opportunities, especially those that might be furthest from those opportunities. So folks, I think that's about as much time as we'll have for questions right now. And I'm going to wrap up with a couple of next steps and thoughts for us. So I wanted to thank everybody for our time today. And, we understand that as companies invest more in AI and as students think through their career plans, all of us collectively really need to be the ones that help folks to understand why durable skills they're building can combine with what they're passionate about to translate to their futures, including the emerging technologies. And this coalition really is seeking to be a resource for all of you, not just on the importance of entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial skills, but how we can continue to prioritize those durable skill sets along AI advancement. And so we'll be following up later this month with additional resources from the coalition. And we welcome your outreach to any of us in any way that we can help.